Very nice, Michael. Very nice.
Danish Pete, that was for you. Where's the horn? Because I can hear him yelling at the screen now, going, "You're playing it all wrong! You're playing it all wrong!"
No, don't do that. Hey guys, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here. Hello.
Today is all about the Dimension C, which is the reason that Mick played that track. Very famously, the modulation sound, because we can't call it a chorus sound. The modulation sound from that track is famously the Dimension C.
Yes, and that was, I mean, I don't know, if you put the track on, it probably wouldn't sound like it at all, because she played it on a Rickenbacker, you told me.
She did.
Anyway, but it is the modulation effect you hear at the start of Purple Rain, and that's probably its most instantly famous application, right? Even though it's been used in...
Oh, man. I had no idea until we did that thing with Matt Schofield.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that we had to honk Matt Schofield. It's very cool. So when we were with Matt in Germany, and we had this rack unit for a little bit, but we're in a it wasn't compromised, but it wasn't our situation. So
we were at Thomann Gear University, and
that's right.
And we had a great time there, and the guys at Thomann put on a really brilliant event where loads of people like us turned up and made videos, and Boss. So this was back about, when was it? In the spring, maybe? Mm-hmm. Something like that.
That'll do.
It was in the spring, and Boss were there, and our friends Matt and Jay from Bros.
From Bros.
I was on an aeroplane yesterday.
Sorry.
And there was an interview with Matt and Luke Goss from Bros.
Really?
Yeah. Really fascinating how their lives have... Anyway.
I can honk Luke Bros.
Can you? Oh, so we can honk Luke Bros from Goss.
Isn't he working at a jeweller's now or something?
An actor.
He's an actor. Okay,
Yeah.
Well there you go.
He's probably been in EastEnders and in Holby City and The Bill.
There you go.
And for anyone in America, I apologise. Okay, so Dimension D, the guys from Boss brought this original rack unit, released in 1979.
Very good.
As I've just learned from Dan's crib notes, along, as well as this DC-2 Dimension C pedal released in 1985 or 4. I can't quite remember. Okay. Anyway, mid-80s. And we were going, oh my God, why don't they? Why don't you reissue this? And Matt's like,
okay, you're right, Matt. You've got something in your eye.
Yeah. And lo and behold, out comes this a couple months back. The Dimension C DC-2 Wazza. So, 1979, 1985, and it only ran 4 years, apparently.
Right.
And they haven't reissued
1
it
year
since.
per button.
Yeah. They haven't reissued it since, and then all the time later comes this. So, Dan, what is Dimension?
Okay. The easiest thing to do is compare it to a chorus.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Let's have a listen to a chorus. If you could be our signal generator, please.
I'm
sir.
signal generator.
Yep.
I'm still playing the Macmull Custom S, by the way. S Classic, sorry, which is a very lovely guitar on the Strat Journey. Hello to Tal and the guys at Macmull.
Okay, so here's our the amps we're using today. We're using the Fender Hot Rod Deluxe and the Supro
Black Magic.
I wanted to say Black Magic,
and they're running in proper stereo, right?
Proper stereo.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so the sound of both amps on together. Okay.
A little bit of compression. I might just roll a little bit of presence on there if you don't mind.
You express yourself.
Either my ears are giving up, or that actually was a bit compressed on the top end.
Mate. It was compressed.
Just out of interest. Okay.
That's it, this guitar's out of tune now. We're going to play it for the rest of the day.
And actually, just because it wouldn't be that pedal show if there weren't multiple tangents, I'm suspecting this is going to have a tremendous amount more presence, toppy, because we think these have got 500k pots in, don't we? But we're not sure.
We're not sure, but...
This is the PRS Silver Sky, which, if it's in tune, I'll be amazed, because I've literally just taken it out of the gig bag. Right, same position, position 2. More on the top. I'm going to keep playing this for a while because I think that top end definition is important in the discussion that
Yes.
we're about to have.
Okay. So here's a chorus. This is the C2W, which is the remake of the classic chorus C2. Okay.
2-ish years ago, maybe.
Was it really?
Something like that.
Okay, so here we
It
go.
goes quicker the older you get.
So,
Take me down to the Paradise City, Dan. I tell you what's interesting about that. I played the G, played the C, and I thought, hang on a minute, that's that sound.
Right.
Is that chorus on that song?
as far as I'm aware, much to Slash's displeasure, it was put on after. And he was like, no chorus, no chorus. And then he heard when it was all mixed in the track and there was chorus on it. And apparently he wasn't a fan of that. However,
This will
that's
be
the
a
sound.
great subject for our viewer views and cues, which is a new video we're going to be doing on a Monday. When the video goes live on a Friday, sorry, another tangent. This is kind of, if you think about a plane coming into land, that's what we're doing. You know, we sort of don't ever watch videos of playing of that.
of the windy landings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know a plane is off course 95% of the time it's flying?
So what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why not? When you see how far two things helped for me. When you see how far the wheels are apart, and knowing that the wing isn't two wings, it's wing.
Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that
I didn't know
helped.
that.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
That helps.
Someone will say, you don't know anything about aeronautics, what are you talking about? Anyway, so there's going to be a new video on Mondays called Viewer Cues and Views, or Views and Cues, we're not sure.
It's all good.
It's your questions. So there'll be questions about Slash, about aeroplanes, and about whether Dan's story about Slash and the chorus is correct or not. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on.
Should
Right.
we just A-B the chorus and the
here's
dimension?
here's what I want you to have a listen to. So we'll go. This is the chorus. Okay, and this is the dimension. Now I want you to have a listen to the bottom end, right? So this is just the amps on together. This is the C2. And all that bottom end is pretty much there, okay? But now back to both amplifiers. Just so what's happening? So you hear the dimension C thins the sound out, right? Ever so slightly, but it's there.
I think what Boss's explanation of that is that it sounds hi-fi and sparkly.
There you go. Okay. The chorus is basically, it takes a signal, it splits it, all right, it modulates one side and then mixes that modulated side back into the original signal. With the dimension C, it takes the set signal, but it splits it multiple times, okay? And then each of these delay lines, or phase lines they call them.
There are 4, aren't there, I think? Are there 4?
Yeah, I think so. There's 3 or 4, there's multiple. But what happens is, you're getting on the dimension, these are all modulating individually, right? But depending on where the setting is, it's the amount of what we perceive as rate and depth. But actually what's happening is these lines are being fed back into each other.
So it's the interrelationship of the phases.
Exactly.
Okay, got
right. So you get this, that phasing thing is what, when you hear that bottom end, that ever so slightly thinning out of the bottom end, that's what's happening with the phase thing.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing that happens when you get really tight delay times in a flanger.
Right.
Right, and you get that that comb filter, and you get that thinning out of the bottom end there. It's a similar thing that's happening, but it's done with multiple delay lines, or sorry, phase lines, and it's the interaction of that, and as they're fed back into each other, you get it's a bigger effect.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting effect.
I think that multiple phase line thing is really significant because one of the questions that comes up, we don't have one here unfortunately, but the TC do something that does this effect kind of,
right,
which only has a single phase, I believe.
Right. Well, if it's a single line, it's a chorus.
Yeah, well, but it's I think it's packaged and named such that it is similar to the dimension.
So what they might have done there, it might be, I'm assuming, if you have a chorus pedal that has a lot of top end and it's not too crazy on the modulation,
yeah,
you can get it, it's a similar sparkly thing, but when you put it next to a dimension chorus,
yeah,
it's that's when you hear.
I think Voss say that TC do one and Behringer do one as well. That essentially they're not the same thing because they don't do the multiple phases thing.
Right. Okay.
That's Voss saying that, not us. We don't actually know. We don't have them here for comparison, but that does answer that question, hopefully.
Yeah. So that's what the Dimension C is compared to a chorus. They're quite different sounds. Going back to that thing with Mac, because I didn't know this, but Stevie Ray used a Dimension D on a number of guitar tracks.
Yeah, so Matt Schofield told us that it was something that Stevie Ray was used in the recording of some of Stevie Ray Vaughan's music.
Yeah.
Apparently it's all over Texas Flood. There's
Right.
some stuff that I think you can hear it in.
Right.
And I'd always wondered about that. Being a Stevie Ray fan, I had no idea that's what it was. So over the years, I'd been chasing some sort of thickening.
Interesting, because he didn't use it live.
No.
Apparently,
No.
it was just in the studio.
God, can you imagine that? If you look at the back of Live Alive by Stevie Ray Vaughan,
I love that album cover
and
of the inside of it.
Look at his amps that he's got on stage.
You've got this massive stage, and you've got Stevie in the middle. The whole rest of the band's on one side of the stage, and then the other stage is all of his amplifiers. It's unreal.
It's like Dumbles, Marshall Major,
Yeah.
Vibroverbs. It's like,
I remember my brother brought that album home, and when I was very young, I just remember looking at the inside of that cover, just thinking, it's just incredible. How Anyway,
totally cool. Okay,
So-
well, maybe we'll get into a bit of that in a minute. So, what's the difference between? Let's finish our history lesson. What's the difference between Dimension D and Dimension C? So this one, 1979, rack format, and this one, 1985 or 84, excuse me, pedal format.
okay. The Dimension D has it's got built-in noise reduction. It's made for studios and also made for line level specifically. It has microphone inputs on it, whereas the Dimension C is specifically for guitar. But one thing the Dimension D did, which the Dimension C doesn't do, is that you are able to select, instead of just one button, on the Dimension D, they realised in the studio that you could press a couple of buttons at two buttons
Oh, I
at
thought
once.
you could on this.
No, you can't.
You can on this.
You can on this,
Oh, okay.
but you couldn't do it on. So if we press down a button here, right, you'll see the buttons click. But if I try and press 2 down, they don't go down. Doesn't happen.
We're going to test that sonically in a minute.
Right, and what would happen is, even if you could get a couple of buttons down, it would resort back to the settings here. However, in the Dimension D, if you pressed 1 and 4 or 2 and 4 down, you got 2 different sounds.
Okay, all right, good. I think the format of the video needs to go now.
Okay.
We've got comparisons, haven't we?
Yep.
We want to know a few things. What does this sound like compared to this?
Yep.
What does this sound compared like to this?
Yep.
And the thing that I'd been using for ages to try and get this sound, the Free the Tone, does that sound like this or like this?
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's do...
Where are we gonna start
We'll
then?
start here.
Yep.
We'll go from the...
So just to explain, the DC-2W has 2 modes. It's got S mode, which is essentially that plus.
Yep.
Right? And then it's got SDD-320 mode. Oh, look, SDD-320, just to explain that.
Yeah. So the difference... let's shut it down. We'll get there in a minute. All right. Ready?
I think so. And then the other question is, what does it sound like with overdrive? Because
Yes.
obviously that's important.
Okay, so let's start with mode 1 on the Dimension C, the original. The new one's cleaner.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the old one's a bit crunchier, but I like the crunchiness. I
Yeah,
must say.
yeah.
It's very cool, but there's more clarity in the new one.
They're both analog signal path, by the way.
Yep.
There's digital stuff in there doing control, but the signal path is analog, right? And surely the wave generators and all that must be digital.
I don't believe so. I don't think there would have been.
You can do all that. You can do all that 4 phases electronically. Analog.
But because everything was. If you were manipulating those times a lot, then yes, it would need digital control. But you had 4 buttons. They only needed 4 settings.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to have a lot of control on that. So they could absolutely do all that.
Well, there's a question for views and cues.
Sure.
If anyone knows about how that works.
Yeah, I'm sure in 85, and I'm pretty sure it's all analog.
The current draw is super low, isn't it?
Yeah.
65 milliamps or something. Okay.
So that's that one. Let's see if I stay on here for a second.
Yeah.
If I go from 1. So when I am getting a different sound there because it's turning them
stay down.
off, but it doesn't stay down. Just let me see if it's the same sound if I try 2 different combinations. So I tried 2 and 4 there.
I'll choose another chord.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, it's momentary. So all they've done is they've made the switches stay down on the new one.
I don't think so. Just do that again because if I hold 2 and 4 down, I'm pretty sure it's the same as holding as 4. Let's try this. It's just 4.
Okay.
So the hidden sound is if I've got 2 down and then I slightly touch any other button, then there's it's not 1, 2, or 3 or 4 selected. It's something else. However, on the Wazacraft one,
Yep.
if I go from 1.
Nice.
It's very cool.
I think I read in the manual that the most extreme setting is SDD-320, position 4. How many can you hold down at once?
I think it's only 2. I did try that before. I've only ever managed to get 2 down. Yeah, it's only 2.
So 3 and 4 then.
Yeah. Mega.
It's obviously on when you hear it, but once you've had it on for a few minutes, it's especially I run it wet dry instead of stereo like this, and you kind of forget.
Yeah. I've been using a really short delay in my dry amp having that on, like even just having one on in the dry amp,
Yeah,
it's just magic.
it's a cool thing.
Yeah, it's so cool. I've always been envious of your, just that, you know, because you've got this. This is from your board.
My width.
You-
Yes, it is. Yeah, they sent us that, and I'm like, A, you're not having this back, and Dan, you're not having this. That's how that went.
Yeah. No, it's very, very cool. Okay, so that was hearing it with. Let's just hear with some.
let's
rock.
hear with some rock. Do you want to play for a bit, and let's
Sure.
let's hear the glory of the Gretsch.
Okay. I must say I haven't had this out for a while, and I feel remiss because it's such a glorious guitar. Taylor.
Where's Red?
So, Red, along with Bluey,
It seems to have become Blue. That seems to be its name.
great.
Now.
Red and Blue are in for a refret. As some of you will know, I recently had Red refretted, and I thought it'd be really clever to have the biggest frets in the history of the world put on my guitar, and I really did like them. The issue I was having with the really massive frets, though, was intonation.
And sound.
And, well, I couldn't believe
Fundamentally
it.
changed the sound of the guitar.
It made it so bright, and Red's already spanky as you like, and all the extra top end it was I couldn't believe it. So it's gone back in for another refret. We're both getting 6105s put on there, and our mate.
Well, our girl's going to have our lips done. I have the same thing. Sorry, that was terribly sexist. I was just on a plane with a load of people who'd had quite a lot of surgery, so
Right.
it's fresh in the mind.
Yeah, okay, don't go there. Dan.
Let's pick that. Shall we pick that story up in the vlog? So Dan and I are both doing vlogs, and we'll pick that story up. Dan's documented the whole refret process, which is
Johnny Kincaid's been doing it. He's in
fascinating.
Bristol.
Let's give
and
Johnny a honk.
Johnny, he is a master builder. He builds the most incredible. I mean, he builds solid bodies into his carved top jazz guitars, but his acoustic guitars are sensational. And anyway,
let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. Anyway, he's refretting those guitars.
That's where our normal guitars are.
Yeah.
Right, so a bit of drive. Let's use. Why don't we? You heard me playing the Wampler Pantheon in the intro. That comes up in a video soon compared to other pedals of that type. Let's hear the box of rock because. For all the grief this gives you, I cannot believe you're touching it.
Because it's not in tune. Unless I've got to give.
Oh,
I've
I
got to
see.
do like that to pretend it's in tune.
It's the old slide guitar trick.
It is.
You're not out of tune till you stop.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've chosen that deliberately because it's got nice. The Gretsch has got nice high top end, and so is the box of rock. It's not like a tube screen where it rolls it all off. Because I'm really interested to hear how the high end sounds in these pedals.
Yep.
So shall we compare these two to begin with?
Yep.
And how do I do that then?
Just so here.
Yeah.
Just,
Okay, so we're in the same loop currently. Yep.
all right. So. the old one seems to be a little bit quieter, and that crunchiness we were talking about before, that seems to work with the overdrive sounds.
A bit more.
Yeah, it just
I'm wondering, because they're both not true bypass, right?
you only if the buffer is affecting.
Yeah,
the
actually, I
one.
don't know if the new one is true bypass.
Well,
the old one definitely isn't.
The thing is, though, we're hitting it with a box of rock, so the box of rock is low impedance output anyway.
Yeah.
So it's being hit with a buffer.
Okay.
Yeah. So that really wouldn't make
Because
any
they did,
difference.
one thing that Boss do say is that the buffer in this one was a little bit dark. So when it was off,
Interesting.
when it was off, the
All
bypass
right.
signal
We'll need to try that out then.
was affected a little bit.
The reason we've got it set up like this, just in case you're wondering, is because we've got 4 stereo pedals here, and to make everything work, I've put these 2 pedals in the same loop, and then this is being fed by the stereo out. So,
Yeah.
these are the pedals you really do need to hear them in stereo, because what's really interesting about another difference between a standard chorus and a dimension pedal is a chorus, such as this one here or the CE1. Generally, a stereo chorus, what they'll do, instead of setting modulation to both sides, they just send the dry sound to one side, the left, and the modulated sound to the right hand
So
side.
it's actually wet dry.
So it's wet dry. You've got a vibrato, basically, like of course vibrato on your dry signal.
Which is how the jazz chorus amp works in each speaker.
Exactly. The dimension is different because it's sending different combinations of those delay lines or phase lines to to left and right.
Yeah.
So, hearing this in stereo is really important, so you get that sense of depth.
Okay.
Yeah. So before we end though, we'll take this out
Yeah.
and we'll just put that in there in its own. We'll get rid of the buffer in that, and we'll just hit that directly. But that's a very interesting point.
Just to see. Okay. So the next job is to compare this with this, isn't it?
Okay, if that's the next job, then I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this now. So what I've done is I've taken this pedal, the original, out of the loop with this pedal, so it's not being. Apparently, the buffer in here might be a bit dark.
Might be.
So I don't know, but now this pedal is on its own.
So it's not being affected
So it's
by,
not being
by
affected.
the pedal before it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So play your rock and riff.
We were trying to remember the riff from Bryan Adams' Somebody Like You, and we think it's something like this.
Yeah. So it's brought back the top end.
Yeah.
Right? There's a crunchiness to the top end of this I really like though.
Yeah.
However, you can see if that was on in line with, let's say you had that in the VB2,
Yeah.
the buffer in that is as dark as you like.
Yeah. The original VB2. you mean?
Yeah. You put those on together and, hello.
So come on, just for the halibut then, swap that out for that one, and we'll do that exact same thing again,
Okay.
and we'll see what the effect on the top end is.
Okay.
Right, back in the game. The original DC-2 is now in. The DC-2W is out. ish.
Great.
Would have sounded better with Keith playing it. Keith Scott. Never met him. Can't honk him. Ah!
So very interesting.
Sounded. I know. It sounded way darker to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did it?
Yeah, definitely. And this is, I mean, it just goes to show. It's one of the reasons we use the it's one of the main reasons we use the switcher to isolate everything. And I thought, we'll just put the two in the one loop. We'll get away with it.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway.
Interesting. Okay. So we're done with this, then, aren't we?
We are.
So that can come out again. This
Yep.
can go back in, and we're
Yep.
going to compare this with this.
Sounds good. Okay, so Dimension C was we'll put it on the SDD-320 mode.
Yeah. Okay, so the massively confusing thing about the SDD-320, bypass on and off. So bypass on means the unit is off, right?
Bypass on means that the unit is off. That's correct. There we go.
Off. On.
There you go.
Is that? Can we prove that?
Yeah. Yep. Where is it?
It's somewhere around there.
Man, that sounds incredible.
I don't even know that those are the right chords for that song. I'm pretty sure they are similar. But have you ever noticed how I always play that chord, and that chord when I'm jamming over stuff?
Oh, okay.
So having listened to that record like on repeat since 1986 or whenever it came out, 1985, 4, whatever, stuff goes in, doesn't it?
It does.
And I think the sound of that has gone in. And I don't know that this effect is used on that record, but it sort of seems like it might have been.
That's why all my guitar playing sounds like, what?
For anyone who doesn't know, Dan had 2 records in the house growing up as a kid, one of which was an album of Kung Fu sounds. True story. Right, come on, let's get into it then. Box of Rock sounding awesome, by the way.
Far out, man.
Yeah, Zevex Box of Rock for anyone who... I lent this to my mate Steve just recently, and he very unwillingly gave it back.
Right.
Okay.
Now, what I might do is I might hit... Oh, no. Let's forget about that for the moment. So let's just go through the sounds. If you could be signal generator for this bit. Now, I've got a suspicion that this is going to be quieter.
Okay.
So we might need to sort that out in a second, but let's sort that in a second.
Imagine if you'd invented a switching system, Dan, that could boost individual patches
Imagine.
in
All
volume.
right.
Just
Yeah,
imagine if you'd done that.
Okay, all right, let's try that then. Right, so this is just the amps. Right, so here's what we're going to do.
Yeah, because it's designed to work at line level.
That's right. So,
And I can remember making the video in Germany at Thomann with Matt going, is it on? And I think one of the issues might have been we weren't hitting it with enough signal.
right.
Or at least it wasn't as obvious because it wasn't as loud.
Okay, try that for us. So with the level boosted going into it, it's much more dramatic.
Isn't it great, all these things you don't have to worry about with pedals
Yeah.
compared to rack gear?
So let's try that again. Okay, here we go. It's still much more subtle, but it's glorious. Even on this, I want to hear this with this. Just play it for us.
Okay, you should play in a bit in a minute. Okay.
For me, the standard, especially in the lower settings, gets a bit closer, certainly to this unit. And don't forget, I mean, so this has come out in '79. Wow, so these are 30 years old, and they're all going to sound a bit different.
40 years
Oh,
old.
stop it!
89, 99, 2009,
Right, so
2019, nearly 40 years old.
Oh my goodness. Right, so there's going to be discrepancies between from unit to unit, but certainly the lower numbers on here are a bit more akin to the lower numbers in the standard pedal mode. I think I actually prefer the standard pedal mode in this.
Yep.
But boy, oh boy, this thing. I mean, it just thins things out a little bit and just does this.
Widen.
Ah, man, it's killer. Let me have.
Yeah, have some track. I think we've kind of done our comparisons. The only comparison we haven't done is this and this. So maybe come back to that in a minute. But
Okay.
Have some schwang. Awesome.
Wow.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Really, really cool sounds.
It is unique. It really is unique. There's not, you know, you've got your flanges, chorus, you know, phases, the standard modulation sounds. That really does stand out on its own.
Yeah.
So cool.
I flicked on the C2 there for a bit, and it was just more thick. It was thicker, more
Yeah.
churny, more.
Yeah. Which is amazing.
Super cool.
I love
but
that
a different
sound.
thing. Too much.
Very different thing.
If what you want is just the fattening.
Yeah. That rock sound with it in position 1 though, man, that's so cool. And you wouldn't know what it was. You know what I mean? It's not.
You hear it if you play the sustaining chord. You hear it.
Yeah.
And then if you're just playing single notes, it just sounds fatter.
Yeah. It's not like you listen to a, you know, you wouldn't pick it out in a lineup necessarily. As in, it's like, oh well, there's a chorus.
Yeah.
Or there's your flange. It's like, what's going on there? Is it a doubler? Is it just a modulation doubling?
Yeah.
It's so cool. So
And it is,
cool.
again, that was one of the other questions that came up. Is it just the same as, can you do this with a TC Electronic Mimiq, for example? And it's not, there are elements of the phase relationship that are similar, but it's not the same thing at all, is it? Not the same sound.
No, because the interesting thing with the Mimiq is it's a doubler that has sort of some randomized modulation in it. Mimiq is really interesting. The software that's gone into that, talking to Tor, our dear friend Tor.
Yes, who no longer works at TC
No longer
Electronic.
works at TC.
Works at Universal Audio.
Yeah. But he's
Congratulations.
Well done, mate. He's a dear friend of ours. His knowledge on this stuff is vast. And he was telling us, what was I saying?
You were saying about the technology in the Mimiq.
He was telling us about the software that had gone into the Mimiq. And
Should we just move on?
yeah.
Because this video isn't about the Mimiq. We will do a video on.
But I understand
on
the
doublers.
question. And I understand how people think, okay, was it the same thing going at the Mimiq? But no, it's not.
Yeah. Maybe that will come up in the what are we calling it? Viewers.
Views and cues.
Views and cues.
TPS views and cues.
There you go.
Views and cues. Viewers, views and cues. VVQ.
Good.
One day it will have its own acronym.
Okay. TPS of the queue.
Okay, finally then, let's have a look at this. I was using this because I didn't know this existed or that.
Right.
But I like the sound of that thickening effect that I liked so much in some of the Stevie Ray I heard, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know what it was in Bryan Adams, and I didn't know what it was whenever I heard it. I always assumed it was a chorus, but any chorus that I had, and I've had these, and I've had other choruses, were too chorusy and sounded too wet. So when I got this preset 3 mode sounded a bit like it to me in mono, and I've never used it in stereo.
Okay.
So apologies, Yuki, I've never used it in stereo because just don't live in the stereo world. But it was that thickening sound for me, and that's what I used it for. So let's get into it. We've taken it out of preset mode. It's now in manual mode.
Yep.
And these 3 knobs, Daniel.
Okay. So this controls the depth of the modulation on the left-hand side.
Yep.
This controls the depth of the modulation on the right-hand side, and the center sends a line out to both.
Which is why it's called Tri-Avatar, because it's 3 phases.
Yep. Okay. So this is wet only. So at the moment, just so that we can just hear the modulation,
Yep.
and then we'll mix in the dry. Okay.
Interesting. It's definitely in that ballpark, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I guess what you can do is if you can get the depths close enough to each other that as they mix. But to do that, really, you need the rates changing so that they cross. And it's only there's one like rate.
Yeah.
Does the whole lot. But you hear the difference of having those three lines together.
Yeah. And also, if you didn't have space for a chorus and a dimension, and you wanted to have a traditional chorus sound and something like a dimension sound, then...
Sorry, I'm being silly. They are crossing.
Yeah.
They are crossing because one's deeper. And so, if I make that the shallowest, that a little bit deeper, and that one deeper still. So I've got left shallower, right a bit deeper, and then the center one deeper still. Let's try that for me. There's definitely a bit more phase cancellation.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, has he ever made anything that doesn't sound amazing?
It's doing a similar job. Wow. Okay. Interesting. I've not done that before. That's the first time I've done that because of course then when you get loud and you play through your own amp and guitars that you're more familiar with and pedals and everything, then it all changes again.
Of course.
So does it sound exactly? Does this sound exactly like this? Does that sound exactly like that? And does that sound anything like that at all? Does this? How different is this? They're all kind of moot questions, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Because it's all about the context and the environment in which you're playing. And actually, unless you were same as all the comparisons we do, unless you are actually comparing them A/B with your best dog ears on, you'd struggle to pick them out in a mix, wouldn't you?
Of course, and then you go to the amplifier and you change one little setting on the amps, all different again.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. I'm pleased we did that.
Yeah, me too. Fascinating.
I think it answered all the main questions.
Yeah.
I rather suspect DC-2Ws will be hard to get hold of for a minute.
Oh. Well, don't put this out until I get mine. Simon? Brilliant, guys.
Might be too late for that, but there we are.
Okay. Hope you enjoyed that. Any questions, please post below and we shall try and get to them on Monday.
Wow.
On V&Q and Q and V&Q.
Yeah, on VVQ, where you can... Yeah, anyway.
First of all, a massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Thank you guys so much. Couldn't do it without you. Also, massive thank you to everyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and purchased a garment. We have some Christmas stuff up there by now, I'm assuming.
Some holiday season packs that you may or may not be interested in. Yeah, we got some new stuff. I think we've got some trucker hats coming.
Awesome.
We've got some new snow style beanies with a bobble.
Really?
Or a pom-pom, I guess you call it in the US. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, go to that pedal show store.
I'm
buy something.
I'm thinking of becoming a hat guy.
Why is that done?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Can I get a hat that just has your hair on it?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Buy something. Keeps us going. Keeps us rolling. We rely on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. A massive thank you to our preferred retailers in the UK and Europe is
Anderson's Music of Guildford in Surrey.
In the Brisbane, Queensland, Australia
would be Pedal Empire.
And in the US of A
would be Riff City Guitar of numerous locations. Please check their websites out and see if there's anything there you might wish to purchase.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic week and we will see you next week.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.